Graham, we talked about sort of exercise in general and diet. Now, our channel is called Low Carb and Fasting. I I have been doing intermittent fasting for 21 years. I also did a longer fast, being a type 1 diabetic. I wrote a blog about it as well. Longer fast, which is a 90-hour fast recently. I personally see the benefits of it. So, where do you stand with fasting?
So I think I go stepwise. So if you go to somebody who's had a typical carby diet
Mm,
and ask them to fast, they'll have a huge reactive hypoglycemia. They'll feel terrible. They'll pass out, and they'll never do it again. So I think you have to prepare the body. So the principle is this: the body has the ability to burn two sorts of fuel. It can burn sugar or it can burn fat. If there's sugar around, it will preferentially burn the sugar. And people think, well, that must mean it's our natural fuel. It isn't because of that. It's because the body knows that the sugar is toxic and will get rid of it. So the first principle is to get people fat adapted. In other words, they can move seamlessly. I describe it a bit like a hybrid car. When the battery goes flat in your hybrid car, it doesn't grind to a halt. The engine kicks in and you don't even know, right? So that it's always balancing the two things, and it can use either fuel to propel the vehicle. And that's how human beings are designed to be. So you've got two forms of energy storage in your body: glycogen and fat. And your glycogen stores are about 2,000 calories, and most people it'll run your body for about 24 hours. What most people are doing is they're continually topping up their glucose, continually topping up their insulin, and they're continually overfilling their glycogen stores, and then they're pushing extra energy into their fat stores. But their insulin is permanently high in a forlorn attempt, as I said earlier on, to try and control their blood glucose. When your insulin is high, your fat is locked away and you can't access it.
mhm.
So when you've got high insulin and you don't eat, you will have that terrible hypo, that gnawing hunger, all of those sort of feelings. And it's the same thing about the marathon runners who talk about hitting the wall. They have a profound hypo. They can't access their fat stores because a lot of marathon runners, all the time, they're putting more sugar in their system, and they're slim and fit, so they think it's healthy, but it's not. So my process goes like this. First of all, withdraw from all the ultra processed food.
Mhm.
Then you're less hungry. Then I consolidate people's meals into 3 meals a day. So at least a breakfast, a lunch, and an evening meal, and no snacks. So now they're eating healthy nutrition, they're much less hungry, and they're not snacking. The next thing I will do is what we call time restricted feeding, and that's not fasting. So we'll basically say, eat your 3 meals over a 12-hour period with gaps, and then have a 12-hour period with not eating. And that in itself brings down insulin, improves everything. Then they'll start to say, my weight's coming down, I'm feeling better, I'm feeling more energetic, I'm sleeping better, everything's improving. Where do I go next? And I'll say, are you equally hungry for every meal? And they'll say, I mean, in my case, for example, I've never been hungry for breakfast. But I believe the Kool-Aid, right, which is breakfast is the most important meal of the day, it gets your body going, etc., etc. So I would every day have a piece of toast and some marmalade for breakfast and sugar in my tea. 2 hours later, I'd be starving hungry with a massive energy slump, right? I'm just not hungry. I mean, I call that whole process the tyranny of food. And I
Mm.
feel like I've escaped from the tyranny of food. So I'm simply not hungry anymore. I eat when I want to eat, and I don't eat when I don't want to eat because I'm fat adapted. So when there's no sugar coming in, because my glycogen stores are not being crammed with sugar all the time, my body simply says, we'll burn some of that fat that Graham's accumulated over the last 62 years.
Mhm.
So the process then is start to skip the meals that you're not hungry for. So now you're eating 3 meals today, 2 meals the next, and mix it up. Then I get people maybe eating 1 meal a day every so often. So now on maybe 1 day a week or 2 days a week, you're eating one meal. Another day of the week, you're eating two, and some days you're eating three. So we're mixing it up all the time. Keep the body getting. And then I'll say, okay, how hard would it be for you to miss 2 meals and the next meal? So now you haven't eaten for 36 hours, right? I mean, you might do that twice a week. And over time, so nobody knows the science behind this. There's a kind of educated guess. But a longer period of not eating switches on all these other body processes, autophagy and apoptosis. And your body starts to go scavenging for the bad cells, demolishes them and recycles them. And those are the cells that are going to give you cancer, etc., etc., and they're the inflammatory cells. And I kind of push most of my clients at some point to do a 5-day fast, maybe twice a year. But it might take them 6 months to get there. What I don't do is on day one say do a 5-day fast, because they'll fall over. But there's absolutely profound evidence to show now that the sweet spot is somewhere between 3 and 5 days of not eating. Plenty of fluids, plenty of hydration, plenty of salt. And most people find day 2 quite hard. By day 3, it gets quite easy. And I hate this term detox, but it's kind of the term you might think of actually in this circumstance. It is a detox. Your microbiome changes, your insulin levels drop, it gives your liver a rest, and the body now starts to turn in and look around. What's hanging around that we can recycle? Because there's no energy coming in. What can we recycle that's hanging around that was otherwise going to be unhealthy?